There is a strange kind of disappearance in this world. A person can still be alive, still breathing, still walking, but the person they used to be inside is gone. Nearly 3,000 years ago, one story began with this terrifying question. After everything we go through, are we still the same person? He left his homeland as a king, a husband, a father. He returned 20 years later as a stranger in torn clothes, standing in front of his own home while almost no one recognized him. The question is, what happened to this man? His name was Odysseus. He survived the Trojan War, where thousands of warriors stronger than him died. But the greatest story about him is not how he won a war. It is why a journey home almost completely destroyed the person he was. The ancient Greeks called this story the Odyssey. But if you remove the monsters, magic, and gods, what remains is a cruel experiment. Take everything away from a person: family, friends, reputation, and power, and see what is left behind. First, the Odyssey takes away his army, then his friends, then his pride. Every challenge across the sea does not simply ask, is Odysseus clever enough to survive? It asks something deeper. How much can a person lose before they lose themselves? And the most frightening part is this: Odysseus's greatest enemy was not the Cyclops, sea monsters, or angry gods. The thing that almost stopped him from returning home was the part of himself he could not control. The first test came in the form of a one-eyed giant called the Cyclops. He was stronger than Odysseus, bigger, and impossible to defeat in a direct fight. For the first time, the man who helped bring down Troy realized there are problems in life that strength alone can never solve. So Odysseus did what made him different. He thought. He tricked the Cyclops, hid his identity, and found a way to escape. His intelligence saved his life. But at the moment of victory, he made the mistake many intelligent people make. He needed the world to know how clever he was. He shouted his name to the Cyclops, an action that lasted only a few seconds, but the price lasted for years. The Cyclops was the son of Poseidon, the god of the sea. And from that moment, the ocean was no longer the road that would take Odysseus home. It became his enemy. But the Odyssey did not only test Odysseus's weaknesses, it tested everyone around him. On a mysterious island, his crew discovered lotus flowers that made them forget their pain. No more war, no more longing for home, no more responsibilities, only endless peace. And that is what makes the lotus truly terrifying. It does not destroy people through suffering. It traps them through comfort. Homer asked a question that would survive for thousands of years. If a prison feels comfortable enough, would we still want to escape? Odysseus forced his remaining men back onto the ship. He continued forward. But far greater challenges waited ahead. Because some things do not trap us with comfort. They attract us with exactly what we desire the most. Then Odysseus encountered the Sirens, creatures whose voices were so irresistible that anyone who heard them willingly sailed toward death. But the most dangerous thing about the Sirens was not their beauty. It was that they knew exactly what each person wanted to hear. Odysseus wanted to hear their song. He wanted to know the secret no survivor had ever told. So he ordered his men to block their ears and tie him to the mast. Sometimes defeating yourself does not mean removing temptation. It means admitting you are not as strong as you think. But the sea did not only offer choices between right and wrong. Sometimes it forced Odysseus to choose between two disasters. On one side was Scylla, a monster that would take a few lives. On the other was Charybdis, a whirlpool that could destroy them all. This is one of the most painful lessons of the Odyssey. Wisdom does not always mean finding a perfect choice. Sometimes maturity means accepting a smaller loss to protect what matters most. Finally, after years of loss, Odysseus became trapped on the island of the goddess Calypso. She offered him what every king would desire: immortality, eternal youth, and a life without suffering. But in exchange, he had to give up one thing: going home. And Odysseus refused. Because he understood something the Odyssey tries to tell us. A perfect life is not necessarily a meaningful life. Humans do not only need to exist forever. We need a place, someone, and a reason to return. When Odysseus finally reached Ithaca, he did not return as the hero who once left. He returned older, weaker, and more humble. But perhaps that was the real victory. Not defeating monsters, but surviving everything and still finding himself again. Nearly 3,000 years later, we still tell the story of the Odyssey, not because we fear Cyclops or sea monsters, but because every person has an ocean they must cross. And sometimes the longest journey is not finding the way back home, but finding the way back to ourselves.